Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon on assignment in Philadelphia.
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Philadelphia? I'm in the studio. Why aren't you here?
Because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and OKC is here in Philly. They're not in the studio. I hate to inform you of that.
Wait, so he's more important than I am? Because Sunday night, when they played in Washington, you didn't go.
Yeah,
you went to Georgetown, but you didn't go see him. So now you dump me? That's great. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Sam Darnold's future, Deion's intrigue with the Cowboys, and Jeff Saturday joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Rams defense sacking Sam Darnold 9 times last night, intercepting him once and causing him to fumble, a scoop and score as Los Angeles throttled the Vikings 27-9 in their home away from home, Arizona. Wilbon, you thought the Vikings would win. What does this performance say to you about the Rams?
Well, beyond me underestimating the Rams, Tony, part of it, and you and I talked about this openly, privately, and then publicly over the last few days, the situation the Rams were facing, it just seemed so, I shouldn't use the word insurmountable, but it was just so difficult with what's going on back at home in Southern California.
Yeah.
And it was great of both. I know the Cardinals were involved in this, and the league and the Rams, to put families and even family pets on a plane. More than 400 people flying a couple of planes to Phoenix, to Glendale to play that game. The stress that has to be involved. I don't even know how you can focus. How can you concentrate on a particular task at hand, which is as exacting as a football game, a playoff football game? You can lock in on that with everything that's going on around your home. I have nothing but love and praise for the Los Angeles Rams, the way they went about their business, their preparedness, their professionalism, the inspiration which they played with. Maybe they derived some of it from the difficulty of the situation, a tragic situation in Southern California. I can't get over it. I can't believe what they did. I have nothing but praise for that team.
I'm going to get to what you said in a second. I'm going to go to the game, though, first. That it turns out in hindsight that maybe the most important play of the game is right at the top of the second quarter when it appears that Stafford is, as he is sacked, that he fumbles the ball, that it's picked up, it's brought into the end zone. The referee goes like this, and you're thinking it's 10-10. And then correctly, they reverse that call because Stafford, he's not trying to throw the ball down the field, but he's trying to avoid the sack. After that, Minnesota never threatens again. The Rams get 2 touchdowns in that quarter. It's 24-3, I think, at halftime, and the game is over. And now to get to what you said. I watched Sean McVay and I watched Matthew Stafford talk about the fires in the post game. I watched that. I watched them, it seemed to me, try to come to grips with their small part in this larger whole here and what the Rams could do. I watched, I think it was Andrew Whitworth in the pregame ceremony, when he talked about the Los Angeles community and the strength of it. And he thanked the first responders and he thanked the firefighters and all of that. And then I read that Roger Goodell said that 45,000 fans had flown or driven from California to watch this game. And I thought, Mike, maybe in their own way, the Rams took strength and purpose from all of that. Because I did not expect them to win either. I did not.
No, didn't either. Kudos. Not even enough. Because there's no too much praise for the Rams and the organization and the team.
Puzzling team, though, Mike.
It's a disappointing.
They start out the season every year, last 2 years. They have a terrible record, 4 or 5 games in. Then they get hot and get to the playoffs. Puzzling.
They're playing well when it counts.
Yeah.
It's a disappointing finish, however, to a surprising season for the Vikings. After losing rookie quarterback J.J. McCarthy in the preseason to a serious injury, Sam Darnold stepped in from oblivion and led the team to the brink of the NFC's #1 seed. But, Tony, where do losses in successive weeks to the Lions and now the Rams leave Darnold and the Vikings?
Yeah, so the convenient narrative here is to say that Sam Darnold reverted to being Sam Darnold. But just because it's convenient doesn't mean that it's not accurate. In the last 2 games that they've had with stuff on the line, the #1 seed in the NFC when they played Detroit, and this is a playoff game against the Rams, Sam Darnold wasn't very good. That offense only managed 9 points in each of those games. So, Mike, I think he cost himself a lot of money. I'm not sure someone is going to come through with a big long-term contract now. When they were 14-2, the team was carrying him around on their shoulders. They were touting him for MVP, and at that point, when they're going for the number 1 seed, he has 37 touchdown passes and 11 interceptions, which is good. In the last 2 games, he's been sacked 11 times. He's got only 1 touchdown pass, 1 interception. He lost a fumble, which led directly to a touchdown. He sort of, yesterday, I thought he looked lost out there. You know, I mean, he really did. And I remember when he said when he was with the Jets, you know, that he saw ghosts. And I thought, to a degree, last night was the ghost of Darnold past.
Tony, I totally agree with you. I'm going to take it further. Darnold looked lost, but so did his coach, who's a terrific coach. He looked lost. It looked like they didn't have a game plan, or the game plan was woefully inadequate. Taking 5 and 7 step drops when you need some quick passes to get away from that pressure, and you've seen it for 2 weeks. You saw it from Detroit, which provided a blueprint essentially for for last night for the Rams. What are you doing? Why could no imagination from a staff that has been imaginative with Sam Darnold? Now, Tony, here's what we know from covering football, covering all sports for a lot of years. When you spend a first-round draft pick on somebody, you anoint that player. You say, this is our guy, and we're giving him our blessing. And that's what's going on with the kid from Michigan. And so Sam Darnold, to me, has thrown his last pass to the Vikings.
Really?
In a way, this is awful because he did win 14 games.
Yes.
My goodness, he had a great season. But, Tony, when executives, when they tap you on the shoulder and they stand up there and they let that kid hug Roger Goodell and they say, with the whatever pick of the first round, we are selecting. That is their golden child.
You don't
They're
think
not
Darnold
giving up on him.
You don't think Darnold's going to get the franchise tag for $40 million? You don't think he's coming back? He may not start anywhere else in the league if you're right. If you're right, because
he
you know
may
what?
Start somewhere
I
else,
thought the same as you thought. Throw the ball away. You can't keep taking all of these sacks.
What are you doing?
Throw the ball away. All right.
He looked overwhelmed. He looked totally overwhelmed last night.
And he had a great year, and now it looks like the whole season is a failure, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't. They won 14 games. Let's go back to the Dallas Cowboys coaching situation from the other day. It is still vacant. But here's a name that might rush into the breach, Deion Sanders. Deion and Jerry Jones have already talked once. Deion called talking with Jerry, quote, truly delightful and intriguing, unquote. Wilbon, what would you call it?
Irrelevant. This is going to come down to some real difficult decision-making for both Jerry and Deion if it advances, if the talks advance and become relevant. The first conversation I don't think is relevant. Tony, there's a central question here to me. Can the Jerry Jones brand, and Jerry's ultimately interested in his brand, and it's mostly the Cowboys, but it's also the Jerry Jones brand.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah, I got you.
Can that exist productively with the Deion brand? And Deion can coach him up, but Deion is in it for the Deion brand. You see Deion in commercials with all kinds of people. You see Deion as a character, as a duck. He's in it with Saban.
Yeah.
The Deion brand and the Jerry Jones brand, they are two of the top. With anybody named Kelsey, they're at the top of the brand business in the NFL. They actually get recognized without saying their names in the United States of America, which other football players, even quarterbacks, don't get.
Yeah.
So I don't know, until we know whether that can be reconciled, I don't know what to think of it. It's intriguing. I mean, it would just blow up the airwaves. We talked about this yesterday, but I don't know if it works. I don't know if it makes sense, and I wonder if either one of the two of them, mostly Deion, would say, Jerry, I love you, but we're not going to go there.
I'm going to track over a lot of what you're saying. My first impression was that this was a pipe dream, that it won't happen, that it can't happen, because Jerry Jones is not going to hire anybody more famous than he is. And Deion Sanders is calling attention to himself every day. Yeah, he's in that commercial with the duck, the Aflac commercial. He also, on the sidelines, coaching Colorado, wears a sweatshirt with his own name on it. Coach Prime. He is an actor. He is a character. And I say that with all due respect because I love him. But then I began to think, well, you know what? Why not? Jerry's 82 years old. He wants to win one more time with the Cowboys. He knows that the people he's hired recently don't have the spark that Deion has. He was there with Deion. Deion played on that team. Deion won a Super Bowl with that team. So maybe Jerry says this: I can share the spotlight with Deion because the spotlight's going to be bigger than it's ever been. Because the Cowboys brand is going to be bigger than it's ever been. I'll tell you this, Mike, and I'll get out of here. The biggest coaching news in the last 4 or 5 years is Bill Belichick going to North Carolina. If Deion went to Dallas, that would be bigger. Let's take a break. Still to come, could the Ravens succeed with direct snaps against the Bills? We're going to ask Jeff Saturday.
We'll also ask him how he would feel about the Commanders' chances against the Lions if he was blocking for Jaden Daniels. Tone, I don't know if it can exist. It's just too big.
It's
nothing's
just
too much.
Nothing's too big for Jerry. Nothing's too big for Deion. Come on. Let's take our first look at this weekend's divisional playoff games with our great friend ESPN NFL analyst Jeff Saturday. Let's start with this. The Eagles beat the Rams 37-20. That's a beatdown earlier this season. But do the Rams look like a different team to you now, Jeff?
Yeah, they absolutely look different. And to your point, 200. I think Saquon had 255 yards rushing. I think 300 yards of scrimmage. Even A.J. Brown had over 100 yards. So they got after him pretty good. But I would say when you look at the Rams, that young defensive line has continued to mature throughout the season. Obviously, putting an exclamation point on what they did to Minnesota Vikings this past weekend. So as you're looking at them, they are definitely a different team. But I'll say this. Philly is getting better as well. I know people have been very critical of the way they played in the playoff. Make no mistake, it's still one of the most physical teams in the NFC. Their game plan ain't changing. It's going to be an onslaught of physicality this weekend.
Let's talk more about onslaught of physicality by changing the topic to the Ravens, who are just trashing people with their running game, whether it was 299 against the Steelers, 271 earlier against Buffalo. Jeff, I know how this excited you. I could hear it in your voice in the subsequent morning, seeing a running game just mash people. Can the Ravens do this again in Buffalo?
They can. I think that is going to be the matchup, Mike. When you think about how do the Bills beat the Ravens, they're going to have to slow down this running game. And what makes that very difficult on top of Derrick Henry, it's the style that Baltimore wants to play with Lamar Jackson now a part of that running game. They don't typically do that throughout the season, but you saw the way he played this past weekend. He from the first quarter on, he was hell-bent on making sure he was going to get his carries in. So I don't know if the conversation with Mom changed him, but my man was about that action. And when he pulls that ball down, that means your backside. And I'm just telling you, even your backside, if it's one-on-one, Lamar's winning 99 out of 100 of those. So you're probably leaving two guys on the backside of that defense to make sure you're keeping up with Lamar. Now that leaves your front side open. It's going to be really interesting to see how Buffalo combats that, because Buffalo wants to do the same thing with Cooks and Allen. It's just a matter of who executes better. I am fired. This one right here, it doesn't get any better than this. This is going to be excellent football. They like big tight ends. They like extra offensive linemen and fullbacks who might as well be offensive linemen. Hey, my plate is full, baby. My cup runneth over for this weekend. I am ready.
I'm excited about that as well. This sounds like jumbo packages that the old Washington teams used to talk about. Speaking of Washington, Jeff, if you're blocking for the Commanders for Jaden Daniels, how do you deal with what Detroit is doing and the pressure that they are able to put on people, even with the injuries they've been able to do it?
Yeah, it's been pretty remarkable. You think about Aaron Glenn and what he's been saddled with and the way that he's adjusted and continues to make adjustments. It's been pretty incredible. The buy-in from the players, the way that Dan Campbell has gotten these guys together, it's fun to watch. I would say this, though. If there's anybody to handle it, it feels like Jaden Daniels is that guy. I don't know if it's just the age, he's so young, maybe he's a bit naive to it, or he just is that calm and collected, because the guy looks like nothing rattles him. And no play is overwhelming for him. He sees the field, he does it. So offensively, you feel good about it. The only problem that I get concerned with, Mike, is the Detroit offense is so efficient and productive. If they get a lead and you got to play from behind, that is a big problem. I don't care what team you are. Jaden Daniels, everybody becomes mere mortals when you're playing from a deficit like Detroit likes to put on you. That could be a problem.
But he certainly has stage presence for a rookie. He walked into the league.
You ain't kidding.
He walked into the league like that. We'll get you out of here on this. The Texans' pass rush, very effective against the Chargers. The Chiefs handled it, though, when the two teams played 3 weeks ago. Do you like the Chiefs to handle it again?
I do, and because they're going to go in with a plan, Tony. If you think about Andy Reid and Mahomes, the left tackle has been a turn. So I'm not sure exactly what the answer is going to be, but rest assured, these last couple weeks, that has been the conversation. How do we make sure Mahomes doesn't have to peek to that left side? He wants to make sure his eyes are staying downfield. They'll have a plan put in place, and there's no better than Patrick Mahomes understanding under pressure where to put the football. The Texans are going to have a massive night defensive line-wise. I just think the Chiefs probably have the answer, unfortunately, for the Texan fans.
As always, Jeff, thank you so much.
Love you,
Jeff.
fellas. Y'all have a
Appreciate
great one.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, the Warriors fall below 500, but Steph Curry advises against a desperate move. Is he right?
And Danielle Medvedev takes out some frustration on a net camera at the Australian Open.
So we have our phrase for the day, Mike, onslaught of physicality. What? That's our phrase for the day.
Yes, I like that.
We should get buttons that say onslaught of physicality.
Old school football.
Happy time, people. Happy belated 65th birthday, Dominique Wilkins. This was Sunday, we missed it. One of the greatest nicknames in all of sports, the human highlight film. Wilkins played 15 years in the NBA, accomplishing the most in his 12 years in Atlanta. Led the league in scoring in 1986, averaging 30.3 points a game. 9-time All-Star, spectacular in the dunk contest in 1985 and 1990. Wilkins never won a ring. He never even got to the conference finals. But that's what can happen when your career bumps up against the Celtics with Bird, Parrish, and Micheal, and the bad boy Pistons with Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, and Bill Laimbeer. Wilkins is in the Hall of Fame. He's on the NBA 75 team.
Tony, yeah, amen. I mean, he had to go against some people who were just on the all-time great list, and Dominique might have been ever so slightly short of it. It's cool now to go to games when Atlanta's playing, and Dominique is there doing the TV. It's great to just see Dominique Wilkins, who looks like he's 30 years younger than he is, and just talk about basketball with Dominique Wilkins.
Happy anniversary, Case Keenum and Stephon Diggs. On this day 7 years ago, Keenum found Diggs owing to an appalling lapse in the Saints secondary for a 61-yard touchdown as the final seconds ticked off in a shocking Vikings playoff win. This became known as the Minneapolis Miracle. Both Keenum and Diggs are together in Houston, but they are off the active roster because of injuries. Keenum has found work in those televised commercials where professional backups are needed. Keenum is called in to literally back up a minivan with a trailer hitched to it. Colt McCoy comes in to spray a wasp's nest. Jacoby Brissett comes in to help with a tax problem. Josh Dobbs comes in to hang a picture. Those commercials are clever, Mike.
Tony, smart and funny they are. I'm not going to say they're equal to the light beer commercials of our youth.
No, they're not.
Because those are the smartest, funniest commercials involving athletes ever. And they were some of the greats of all time. But these are very funny, including the Case Keenum. These are laugh out loud funny. They are.
Happy trails to a net camera at the Australian Open. Fifth-seeded Daniil Medvedev was trailing the 418th ranked player in the world in the third set when he took his frustration out on the tiny camera, swinging his racket at it 5 times, smashing it to pieces. In doing so, he also broke the frame of his racket. The chair ump responded by issuing a code violation for racket abuse, which could result in a fine. But if you want to stop racket abuse, just force him to play with that broken racket. Medvedev bounced back to win the first-round match in 5 sets. 9th seed Andrei Rublev wasn't so fortunate, falling in straight sets to 18-year-old Brazilian qualifier Joao Fonseca, who wowed the crowd while playing in his first ever Grand Slam match.
Fonseca's supposed to be a big deal. A lot of people love him. I think he committed to Virginia at one point and then said, I'm going to turn pro. Seems to have worked out well so far.
Yeah, let's get those Wahoos on the phone to get them back. Big finish quickly. The NBA fined your boy Anthony Edwards $50,000 for flipping the bird at a ref while on the bench. Your thoughts?
More than $250,000 of fines this season. Leads the league with 9 texts. He says no more texts. We'll see. They need him. Stop getting texts. Japanese star Roki Sasaki has narrowed his suitors down to Dodgers, Padres, Jays. Who's the favorite?
Stop, Dodgers. Warriors fall below 500. Steph Curry doesn't want the team to make a desperate move. How do you read that?
I'm not reading anything. Trade for LeBron. Just do it. Just trade for LeBron. The Lakers are going nowhere. The Warriors are going nowhere. Steph, LeBron.
We're going nowhere if you don't get on with the question.
I just told you what to do. 3 double-ranked SEC matchups tonight in college hoops. Who you got?
Yeah, I got Alabama, I got Kentucky, I got Auburn. Cavs at Pacers. Now, like Pacers to win again?
Nah, Cavs rebound in Indy.
Really? So they split home and home?
Yeah.
On the road, rather. Out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser in studio.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get us wherever you feel like getting.